BoJack Horseman isn't just a TV show. Sure, it has characters, anthropomorphic animals, sex jokes, a comedic relief, a well-known actor playing in the lead, and not to mention some really absurdist humor. It ran for 6 seasons with 76 episodes. That's 12 episodes a season, aside from the final, which had 16 episodes. BoJack Horseman has all the characteristics of a TV show, but it's not. It's an experience. This show has some of the most intense and real scenes in any piece of media ever, but maybe not intense in the way that you're thinking of if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's intense not in a sense that BoJack is ever in any physical danger, aside from maybe once or twice, but instead in the way that BoJack throughout the series hits a new low each season, each one being topped off by the next, and by the end of the series, he hits his utter rock bottom. I think a key theme in each season is losing control. BoJack is not a good person, and the show never tries to make you think that he is. He makes decisions that ruins people's lives and even gets some people killed. And the tragic part is that there's some parts throughout the show where we can get little glimpses that BoJack can do good. He could be a good person, like how he is with Hollyhock, but every time, without fail, he makes a decision that sends everything crumbling around him, sending his life spiraling out of control once again. Initially, this video was just going to be about the view from halfway down, but I realized that I have way too much to say about this show. After all, the oldest video on this channel is about a BoJack monologue, which, looking back on it, probably could have been better, so hopefully this video is that. So throughout this video, we're going to be going through and looking at 3 scenes from BoJack Horseman, and 1 from Inglourious Basterds, but don't worry, that'll make sense in a second.
You don't like them. You don't really know why you don't like them. All you know is you find them repulsive.
Dialogue is defined as a line spoken by one or more persons in a film, book, play, etc. And no one can write dialogue better than Quentin Tarantino. In order to talk about why this show's dialogue is so good, we have to set the standard. Quentin Tarantino is the standard. We could have gone with any number of scenes from many of his movies, but let's go with my favorite. This man is Christoph Waltz, doing the best performance I've ever seen in my favorite scene in any movie ever. And in an odd way, this scene kind of represents BoJack. So here we have Christoph Waltz, our big scary antagonist. And in this scene, he is never not in control. That's a big part of his character throughout the movie, control. With his interaction between him and this other guy, I can't actually say his name because I can barely speak English, and this is in French. So we'll just be referring to him as the French farmer, even though I think he's a rancher, but that's not the point. Look at this interaction between Christophe and our French farmer.
Are you aware of the nickname the people of France have given me?
I have no interest in such things.
But you're aware of what they call me.
I'm aware.
What are you aware of?
That they call you the Duranta.
Precisely.
The way that Christoph forces him to say his nickname out loud shows the level of dominance that he has over this guy, and shows the level of power that he can just force over him. Take a look at this scene. Not only is this a pretty funny clip, it shows the level of power he has over them. Here he is sitting down drinking a glass of milk while the family surrounds him, terrified, shaking. He is always in control. He knew from the moment that he walked into our French farmer's home that he was harboring these Jews. So after a relatively pleasant conversation, at least on the surface, everything suddenly turns. Christoph's smile fades and his eyes go dead.
You're sheltering enemies of the state, are you not?
Yes.
You're sheltering them underneath your floorboards, aren't you?
Yes.
This is it. This is what we've been looking for. This kind of sheer and raw intensity in our dialogue. This is what I want. Earlier, I mentioned in a way that this scene kind of represents BoJack. Well, I bet you're wondering which of these characters is BoJack. Easy, both of them. There is a constantly persisting turmoil inside of BoJack, very similar to the turmoil between these two characters. Our French farmer here, he set out to do good. He wanted to help these Jews by giving them a place to hide, but his willingness to do good is, in the end, overcome by the destructive force of Kristoff's character. This same battle is always happening inside BoJack. He wants to do good, he wants to be good, but time and time again, he is overwhelmed by his destructive nature. This is the main conflict of the series, and the best scenes deal with this conflict. So let's start our search.
Now get the fuck out of my house.
We begin in season 1, episode 8 specifically. Herb is BoJack's former best friend, the one who got him the job on Horsin Around. But after the studio fired Herb, BoJack abandoned him and stayed on the show. BoJack comes to make amends years later whenever he learns that Herb is dying of cancer, which is when we get this scene.
So, you're apologizing?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Okay. I don't forgive you.
Herb, I said I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I do not forgive you.
Not sure you get what's happening here. This could be the last time that
No. I'm not going to give you closure. You don't get that. You have to live with the shitty thing you did for the rest of your life. You have to know that it's never, ever going to be okay.
I really think that we'd both feel better if we
I'm
just...
dying. I'm not going to feel better. And I'm not going to be your prop so you can feel better.
You have to believe me. I did everything I could.
Yeah? Then why didn't you call me? Huh? 20 years you didn't call me.
Look, I wanted to, but I didn't think...
You know what it was like for me? I had nobody. Everybody left. I knew all those showbiz phonies would turn on me, sure. But you?
It's not my fault you got fired.
I don't care about the job! I did fine. I had a good life. But what I needed then was a friend. And you abandoned me. And I will never forgive you for that.
This scene is the first time throughout the entire show that we get this kind of intensity, and really, it's all uphill from here. This is still very early on in the show, where BoJack's selfishness is still super apparent and on the surface. He doesn't try to contact Herb for 15 years, but now, since he's on his deathbed, he goes to make amends. But not because BoJack feels bad, not because he wants to apologize, because he wants to be forgiven. He doesn't want this shitty thing that he did to a friend weighing on his conscience for the rest of his life, and Herb, rightly, doesn't give him that satisfaction, because BoJack doesn't deserve it.
Fuck, man. What else is there to say?
In this next scene, we have a confrontation between BoJack and Todd, who mainly serves as a comedic relief throughout the show. But every so often, we get scenes where he, of all people, calls BoJack out, which is what we get in this scene.
You can't keep doing this! You can't keep doing shitty things and then feel bad about yourself like that makes it okay! You need to be better!
I know, and I'm sorry, okay? I was drunk, and there was all this pressure with the Oscar campaign. But now that it's over,
No, BoJack, just stop. You are all the things that are wrong with you. It's not the alcohol, or the drugs, or any of the shitty things that happened to you in your career, or when you were a kid. It's you. Alright? It's you.
BoJack fucks over Todd probably the most of anyone else in the show, and it builds up throughout the first 3 seasons to this point, finally breaking when Todd learns that BoJack slept with his girlfriend. This really applies to all the scenes, but I love the way that there's no music throughout any of them. It makes it that much more real and intense. But anyway, here Todd finally explodes at BoJack. It's not often in the show that Aaron Paul gets a chance to shine, but here he does, and in a big way. For most of the series, we're seeing through the eyes of BoJack. He's the namesake of the show, after all. Throughout the show, time and time again, we hear his reasonings for why he does the things that he does. Whether it's his alcoholism, drug addictions, or awful parenting, there's always an excuse for BoJack. There's always a reason it isn't his fault. It wasn't his fault that he didn't help Herb. It wasn't his fault that he didn't call or see him for 15 years. and it wasn't his fault that he slept with Todd's girlfriend. But now we get to see from Todd's perspective. He's been screwed over time and time again by his best friend, the person he adores and idolizes, and all this baggage, all this weight, it's wearing down on him. And he finally decides that he's had enough. From BoJack's perspective, he didn't have a choice. He never had a choice. The way that these things happened were the only ways that it could ever happen. It was out of his control. But Todd sheds new light. We always have a choice. And BoJack, once again, chooses wrong. He chooses to betray the only one that would stick by him no matter what. But again, we all have a choice. And Todd chooses to leave.
Find your peace, big guy. Find it.
I wish I could have known about the view from halfway down!
So here we are, the sole inspiration of this video. Writing the script for this part was hard, because this is like the Mount Everest of dialogues. So instead of what I've been doing, which is showing the clip in the beginning and then giving my take on it, we're going to be going through line by line, analyzing it that way. If you didn't read the message at the beginning of this video, this poem is literally about suicide. The view from halfway down means the view halfway down, jumping off of a building to your death. So, pretty much all fair game from here.
The weak breeze whispers nothing. The water screams sublime. His feet shift, teeter-totter. Deep breath, stand back, it's time. Toes untouched the overpass. Soon he's waterbound. Eyes locked shut, but peek to see the view from halfway down.
I remember when I first watched this bit, it kind of flew right over my head. I'm not sure if it was Will Arnett's deep, raspy-ass voice reading poetry and saying teeter-totter, but for some reason I just didn't quite comprehend it. But this is actually a callback to an earlier episode where Secretariat jumps off a bridge after he'd been caught betting on his own races. He was BoJack's idol, and he's actually the one reading the poem, but instead with BoJack's dad's voice.
A little wind, a summer sun, a river rich and regal. A flood of fond endorphins brings a calm that knows no equal. You're flying now. You see things much more clear than from the ground. It's all okay. It would be. Were you not now halfway down?
Here we see Secretariat as he descends to the ocean, but something happens. Something changes. Just a moment ago, he was surrounded by darkness, having no options but the view from halfway down. His final choice was made. His heart and mind were clear from all his troubles. So his eyes peeped to see the view from halfway down. He'd never seen anything like it. The way the morning sun just touches the water, it was beautiful beyond description. He realizes there's more to life than his just narrow point of view. He could live and he could be okay. Or he would be, if he hadn't already seen the view from halfway down.
Thrash to break from gravity. What now could slow the drop? All I'd give for toes to touch the safety back at top. I changed my mind. I changed my mind. I don't want to...
It's okay.
But this is it. The deed is done. Silence drowns the sound. Before I leaped, I should have seen the view from halfway down. No, I really should have thought about the view from halfway down.
Fuck. What else can I say? I probably watched this clip 2 or 3 dozen times while making this video, and I'm not exaggerating whatsoever when I say this clip literally gave me chills every single time, without fail. This part of the poem can be summed up in one word: regret. Regret for choices made in an instant. That exact sentence can be used to sum up BoJack's character. Regret for not sticking by Herb. Regret for betraying his best friend. Regret for not being a better role model for Sarah Lynn. Regret for not being a better person. Regret for not trying harder. Regret for everything. Just regret. BoJack Horseman is a TV show that, despite being a show about an animated, talking, severely alcoholic horse, is a masterclass in storytelling, characters, and above all else, dialogue.
My mom died and all I got was this free churro.